is my review of Teferi, Akosa of Zalfir. First off, 97 life total. I don't understand what Oktagon is doing with these low life totals lately. Almost all of the recent Planeswalkers have been under 100 total life. And for me, that kind of takes a lot of Planeswalkers out of contention for using in coalition events, because when health total matters, any advantage you can get there should be taken into account. So putting a Planeswalker under, say, 110 life makes it really risky right off the bat. So with that said, he's probably not going to be a great Planeswalker to use in any serious event just for health points. So, yeah, with that said, let's move on to the mana bonuses. So, he's got good mana gains on his corresponding colors. Basically, get 8 mana if you match a white and 8 mana if you match a blue. That's decent for black, which is kind of interesting because he gets basically 5 mana. Problem is with his other colors, -2 on 2 different colors is pretty bad. I mean, you can of course always build to get more blue and white matches for him, but when there's nothing on the board except for red and green matches, it really slows things down for you. So you really just got to make sure that when you're building for him, you have a good way of getting white and blue gems on the board. And I do, so it hasn't been that big of an issue. But when I don't have those things in my decks, then yeah, he can sometimes get really screwed when it comes to swapping gems for mana. All right, let's move on to his abilities, because abilities are really mostly where people decide if a planeswalker is right for them or not. So we got his first ability, Battle Preparations. Discard the last card from your hand, then draw 2 cards. Those cards gain 5 mana. If a creature card was discarded this way, create 2 White Knight tokens. And the White Knight tokens are basically the ones from, going all the way back to the original Zendikar set, where Gideon too creates these same tokens. So Knight allies. So I guess if you really wanted to use him in legacy events and pair him with ally tokens, that's an option, I guess. So I think this is actually his most useful ability. It's definitely the one I use the most. Discarding the last card from your hand lets you take advantage of putting things into your graveyard that you want there, such as Faithbound Judge, Catilda Dawnheart Martyr. Those are the 2 that I'll be showcasing in my decks that I built. Drawing 2 cards and giving them 5 mana each can be really a nice advantage for you. And then the 2 White Knights you can sacrifice to cut your losses casualty. So that's another reason to like it. So, and it's a pretty cheap ability at 5 loyalty. That's actually pretty good. 5 loyalty to draw 2 cards, giving them 5 mana. It's one that I found to be really useful for me. Now, let's get to the other 2, which haven't been that useful for me. So, Valiant Stand. Create 3 Knightship Vow tokens. Knight creatures you control gain first strike and vigilance until the beginning of your next turn. So the Knightship Vow token is, it creates basically 3 tokens that have 4 shields on them. At the beginning of your turn, knight creatures you control get +1 until the beginning of your next turn. Okay. At the beginning of your opponent's turn, your opponent may drain X mana from their hand. X is the number of knight creatures you control, including their reinforcements. If they don't, your knight creatures gain hexproof until end of turn. So that's basically more or less giving your knights ward, and the ward is X. So if you create those knights from the first ability, basically you're giving yourself knight or ward 2 to use this Knightship Vow token. So it's okay. Gaining hexproof until end of turn. With as much untargeted removal out there, this is really just saving you from getting Cigara's Imprisonment or Sleep with the Fishes casted on you. Two cards I don't use that often anymore. I just prefer untargeted removal to most things. With Ward and Hexproof being so prevalent right now, I think that that's why I just don't use those cards that often. But they're nice to have, but this is just an extra protection for that. And then his third ability, United Chivalry. I have a few different problems with this ability here. United Chivalry, create 8 White Knight tokens, which is not bad. You get a 16 Knight stack. Your creatures gain can't attack and can't block until the beginning of your next turn. Reduce the cost of all cards in your hand by X. X is equal to the number of creatures you control, including their reinforcements. Sounds kind of nice on paper, right? You create a nice token stack. You basically make most of your cards in your hand for free. The issues I guess I have 3 different issues. You can't even trigger the rest of this ability unless you create those White Knight tokens. So, unless you already have the White Knight tokens on the battlefield from his first ability on the board, then you have to replace any creature you have on the battlefield with these White Knight tokens, or else you can't take advantage of the rest of this. So that's already one barrier to using this. The second part, your creatures gaining can't attack and can't block. You're basically sacrificing any combat damage your creatures would do this turn in order to cast everything in your hand, which is fine if you don't have a bunch of creatures on the battlefield already. But if you do, then that sets you back a turn, opens up any attack on you that your creatures can't block. So that can be pretty punitive for you as well. And then as long as the cards are in your hand, they stay reduced. So that's nice. But you just got to make sure you have enough cards in your hand when you use this ability to make it even worth it. And I found that a lot of times I'm just so close to already casting the cards, especially in this deck, that this ability just doesn't do enough for me. So I just didn't find it all that useful in practice. There was just too many drawbacks to it, and the advantage you get from it just wasn't big enough. So that leaves his first ability, spamming it, which is a good ability, but just overall, just having one pretty decent ability would make it hard for me to choose him over somebody like Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, whose third ability is enough to win games, or at least put you on track to winning games, or at least not losing games, which is in this game about the same. So his abilities, I just wish were a bit more universal. And also, I guess the whole theme of him is focused around knights. I just don't think there are that many great knights in the game right now. So I'll just go ahead and show you in standard, at least, what we've got available to us in blue and white. So let's go ahead and do that and just look through our what we have here and see what we have as knights and just go through the ones that are the best. So Danitha, Benalia's Hope, is probably the best knight in the game in standard right now because of the whole Blade of Shared Souls thing. And if you're not already familiar with that, you probably will be soon. I can make a whole video on why that is bad for the game, and I hope to do so sooner or later. But for now, Danitha is the card to have, and to pair it with Blade of Shared Souls, it's just evil for a lot of reasons. But then we also got Knight of the White Orchid, which is a decent knight. The whole entering the battlefield, converting 5 gems to white. There's a lot of ways to take advantage of that. This is one of my favorite new knights because of what it does. And it's definitely going to be showcased when I show his battle footage. Rhea Ivor is a decent card. It creates a bunch of Phyrexian mites, so that's nice. This is one to pair with Galta, the new Galta that we have in standard right now, the rare creature. That's a good one. This has some utility when you cast a spell card, create a soldier token. Rem Carlos is probably the other best knight in the game right now in standard because of the whole gaining prevent damage thing. So you can build around that. That's a knight, but it's not a knight that really needs to stack. So unless you build for him in other ways, Rem is probably not the best creature for this Planeswalker. But I don't know. You could always pair him with other blockers that aren't knights. But yeah, I mean, we got other knights that have vigilance. We got a lot of them. So they're good blockers. This one can gain vigilance. Sigardan Paladin is decent, can give all your creatures lifelink, but in my deck you'll see that we won't need that. Norn's Inquisitor creates incubators. So yeah, nothing all that exciting when it comes to knights right now. There may be 5 knights worth using. There's even this masterpiece knight that I haven't even touched. When an equipment card enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. At the beginning of your turn, control 3 or more equipment cards. The first equipment card in your hand gains full mana. Yeah. I just don't use equipment very much right now. I don't think there's a lot of great equipment to use. So, yeah. Unless you love some of the creatures in here, even this masterpiece Edgar, he's just okay. Unless you really like the Knights that are in standard right now, you're probably better off using a Planeswalker with better abilities, such as Urza, Lord Protector. But let me just show you the deck that is my favorite for him so far. Okay, so this deck is the one I had the most fun with. It's mostly based on getting my creatures out. And the 3 that I have that I want to keep on the board the most is Knight Errand of Eos. When this creature enters the battlefield, pick 2 of the first 4 creature cards from your library. Move those cards to your hand. Those cards gain 5 mana. I really like this card. I thought it was a pretty good card just reading it, but I think it's a really good card in practice, especially with that Convoke 8. When you get enough creatures on the board, you're going to make this card really cheap to cast, which is then going to make it easy to grab creatures you want and start to fill them up with mana. So you put this one on the board and you grab a Healer of the Pride with it. And then from there, you can grab a Clay Champion, which is going to take advantage of all the white gems that the healer is going to be making with the creatures that you pull from. And then Faithbound Judge is good because you can either put him on the battlefield or use his first ability to put Judge in the grave. Same with Catilda Dawnheart Martyr. So these 2 creatures, mostly they're utility is putting them in the graveyard, but they're nice to have on the board in a pinch as well. And so Blade of Shared Souls is going to copy Clay Champion or the Knight, and C Double will do the same thing. This is a brand new card, which is pretty good. At the beginning of your turn, if this card's in your hand, mill 8, this card gains 4 mana. If you have a card not named C Double with full mana in your hand, create a copy of that card in your hand, it gains full mana. Otherwise, create a copy of target creature into your hand, it gains full mana. So it's basically you're copying a creature to recast. It's kind of an ETB card without having to exile and return your creature to the battlefield. So that's fun that way. Then ambiguity and cut your losses. Ambiguity is going to be what kind of helps to get things moving and do some defending on your side as well. Transcendent Message, another new card. I kind of like this card as a draw card. So it's got Convoke, so you can make it really cheap. And when you match 3 or more blue gems, if this card is in your hand, increase this card's level by 1, draw up to X cards. Those cards gain 3 mana. X is equal to this card's level. So just an easy way to get more cards in your hand, give them a little bit of mana. And so I'll show you how this deck works. All right, here we go. Let's get ambiguity on the board first. Interesting, that's not a creature I see very often. I don't think it's that good of a creature, so that's probably why. Okay, let's get Judge on the board. Get the ambiguity train rolling. So I'll always grab Heal the Pride and or Clay Champion, unless I want to put a Judge or something in the graveyard. So we'll do that. Another ambiguity. So what I'll do is move Faithbound Judge to the bottom of my hand. Use his first ability and do that. And so let's do ambiguity, C double. No, I'll save my C double for when I get a Clay Champion. So he went straight for my time bubbles, which is always pretty funny. Let me get the healer down first so that Clay Champion does more. Let's do this. Put Catilda into my grave, and then I will do this. Put healer, Clay Champion, C double, and grab more of these. Okay. So now that Judge and Catilda were in the graveyard, I could take advantage of that. Oh, dang. Copied Clay Champion, which makes me able to buff my other creatures. Then I'll just spam his first. So I just keep checking the creatures that I don't need into the graveyard, taking advantage of them in that way. Get ambiguity going. And there you go. That was a bit of a slow battle, so maybe the next one I can get going faster. It usually wins a lot faster than that, but I'll show you. Okay, we got a nice 5 swap there. I'll get Healer and Catilda down. Don't need C double right now. Save my Clay Champion for when I match green or white gems first. That's a pretty strong creature there. But we'll do Clay Champion, C double. Get a knight down, actually. Judge and Clay Champion. Sucks to lose my healer, but we'll get her back soon. So what do we want in the graveyard right now? We'll take Catilda and put her down. Okay, good ambiguity. So what I always like to do is put ambiguity down first and then cast Cut Your Losses. All right, cool. So we got Catilda. We'll give our knight protection this time. Oh, we get another Catilda. So yeah, this will keep your dudes safe for a little longer. And hopefully start to whittle your opponents down a bit. So we'll throw a judge in the graveyard. Use Cut Your Losses. And see what happens that way. I see any matches that are good. Maybe here. Yep, sweet. Sacrifice a knight. Use another Cut Your Losses. So those Clay Champions are going to be pumping us up. Can't use it on Catilda yet. Let's grab healer and a knight. So there we go. That's how that is supposed to go. Ambiguity is just going to be shredding people up. Get another blade. So let's do... Okay, here we go. Grab a knight. Copy Clay Champion. Pump my creatures up. Just keep doing this. And there you go. That's a lot more how it goes. So, pretty fun little deck. It's just based on pumping up my creatures and taking advantage of their enter the board effects and leaving in the graveyard effects. So, pretty fun that way. Okay, so final thoughts on him. Where would I rank him amongst the blue and white planeswalkers I already have? I don't think he's better than Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. I don't think he's better than Urza, Lord Protector. Dungeon Master, if things like Venture into the Dungeon and all that was still in Standard, he would be better as well. He's better than Dove and Ban, which is a really old Planeswalker at this point. So he's probably uh, in fourth place out of the 5 blue and white planeswalkers that I own. So, yeah, he's probably not going to get a lot of play for me. He's probably going to end up just being one of the planeswalkers that I use for certain legacy events that I need a slot to throw a PvE deck into. So, yeah, maybe one of those ones where you have to cast a certain amount of nights or something like that. He can be useful for. But other than that, I don't know. I don't think he's worth the money. I wish that they tweaked his abilities a little bit more to be a bit more universal. And if there were more exciting knights in the game right now in standard, then he'd be a little bit more exciting to use. But as of now, I find him to be a bit lackluster. So yeah, there you have it. He might be worth getting for crystals during the holiday sale, but even that's kind of iffy. So yeah, he's probably just like a B minus walker for me. His first ability is pretty good, but that's his real saving grace. I would skip him for the most part, unless you give me some good, compelling reason that I'm overlooking. And you can do so if you find me on Discord. I'll put down the link in the description so that you can join the D3 Rejected Discord. And if you decide to join our coalition, you'll get access to the Telegram, which is where all the fun stuff happens. It's just a chat program that's similar to Discord, actually, but it's more real time. It's almost just like texting. It's not so much message board format, but it's fun. We got a lot of group chats going, and that's where we do almost all of our deck brewing for coalition events and anything else we decide that we want to mess around with. So it's a lot of fun. It's where it's at. So come join us there. All right, guys. Till next time, I hope that we get some exciting new things coming to the game soon because right now we're in a bit of a lull. And yeah, let's talk about it.